The Cost of Goods Told podcast is made possible by the following sponsors. Criswell Culinary aims to create a new standard of unique, affordable hot sauces that satisfies the more developed cravings of today. Boerne brand Texas-style hot sauce is a boldly layered sauce with density and personality to proudly represent Texas. Go to BoerneBrand.com to find a retailer near you. That's Boerne, B-O-E-R-N-E, brand.com. 0 Point Organics grows and supplies microgreens for over 30 major restaurants in the Houston area. Consistently perfect quality in flavor and appearance, their microgreens will be the best you or your customers have ever had every single time. Go to pointorganics.com. Welcome to the Cost of Goods Told podcast. My name's Connor. I'm a chef and media producer.
I only had one
episode.
sip. Oh, yeah.
Y'all a whole season by yourselves.
Yeah, right.
Oh, we have a guest today. We might want to cheers.
We just started, huh?
No, we're good.
Cheers.
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 Salute.
Salute.
Are we ready? No, I'm just
I'm keeping all that in. Welcome to the Cost of Goods Told podcast. My name's Connor. I'm a chef and media producer. I am joined, as always, by my co-producer, and again, in person, Darren Lafferty. How you doing, man?
until you start paying better, no one else is going to show up. That's all it boils down to.
All it would take is a penny at this point to pay better.
I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're super lucky to be here. I think with everything that's going on, I think that we could just take a moment to be very blessed to actually be able to do this podcast, have the ability to do this podcast with everything that's going on. I think it would be ignorant to not at least touch upon everything, not to go too deep into it, but just to say that our hearts and prayers are with everybody. We're hoping everybody's making it through it. We understand how lucky we are to be able to do this podcast, and we could not be more thankful to be doing it with Michelle Wallace of Gatlin's BBQ. How are you doing?
I am good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good?
So good, so good. Michelle, it's we've had Greg on to kind of talk about his journey. I've got some mentally prepared notes. I usually come with a lot more notes, but again, I left them at home trying to pack up.
Drinking that, you won't remember any of it.
I know, right? Michelle, why don't you take us through a little bit of your journey leading up to coming here at Gatlin's, if you don't mind.
Sure. Quick version is, as I don't know if a lot of people know, but I'm actually from the Midwest.
Okay.
I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, born and raised.
Okay.
Came here to go to college, graduated from the Texas Southern University. And then I got a degree in healthcare administration, and I thought, oh my gosh, I did it, everything. That's what your parents kind of want you to do, right? And so I was bored out of my mind, sitting in an office. And during my whole college years, I always worked in a restaurant. And I love the atmosphere. I love communicating with customers. I love the service aspect of it. And then most importantly, obviously, I love the food. And so while I was doing that, I always cooked on the side. And it always came to be about how I learned about technique. Like it was about food and it was about flavors and how you pair things together, but more so about technique. Like if I did this, it will yield me this on whatever food. So if I'm grilling or if I'm sauteing, just figuring it out. And I was just doing all of that on my own. Decided to go to culinary school in 2009, graduated from Art Institute of Houston. And then it just kind of took off from there. I was personal chefing for a lot of professional athletes.
Nice.
Cool.
You want a name drop?
I was going to say, you can do it here.
I actually cooked a little bit for DeAndre Hopkins. It's probably one of the largest names that I've actually cooked for.
Congratulations.
Thank you. He's a fun person to cook for, and it was more for his family members than for him. Of course, he indulged, but mostly when his family came in town. So, but that was probably the largest name. There are probably a few other names, but probably the largest.
So before you made the jump to culinary school, was there a personal conversation that you had to have, or a conversation with family that you had to have that like, hey, look, I want to get out of this, and try something new?
No.
Like healthcare? You mean get out of healthcare?
Get out of healthcare. If you think about it, they're a lot similar in a lot of ways, but not really. I have a twin sister, and she's usually somebody I always have a conversation with just because we're so close. But when things or my life became more about cooking and for food, and people kept reaching out, and more people kept doing it, it was just kind of a telltale sign. And then I was just happiest doing it. Like, you know, going to work, getting dressed, sitting in the office, on the phone. Like, I remember my boss used to laugh at me because I would be at my desk and I literally would like pace like around. He'd be like, Michelle, sit down and work. Or I'd stand up and like I'm typing on, I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't do it. So it just felt right to be in the kitchen cooking and all of that stuff. So, but there was no real like conversation. I didn't have to really mull it over a whole bunch. It was just like, I'm just going to do it. And so I did.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so then you get out of culinary school.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find these athletes for the private chef gigs?
It's weird. Like
and
once
how
you
can
cook
I
for
do
one,
that now too? Because they got the deep pockets.
It was a lot of those came actually before culinary school, but it was like once you cook for one, you kind of cook for you know they start spreading your name. I also work for Houston's restaurant, and a lot of them come with being located right down the street from the stadium. And just through conversation, you know, I used to not be really good at selling myself. I used to just be like, oh, and my sister would be like, why don't you tell people like this is what you do? And so just through conversation, you know, I just started talking, and that's just literally how it happens. I think people are attracted to nice people.
For sure.
And,
I tend to classify most people in two categories: front of the house, back of the house.
Yeah.
Do you relate more to back of the house? Because I find you to be equally yoked with both, right? I mean, I think you get in front of people and you're great with the interface, and you also make amazing food. So
yeah, I had this one chef that I cooked for. He told me, he was like, Wallace, Wallace, you have a gift of front of the house, back of the house, and you start talking about another chef. He's like, he don't know shit about front of the house. He's just not comfortable with doing it. I don't know, and I think Greg can probably attest to that too. I'm very comfortable with both. Obviously, I love to cook. That's where I love to be. But I also love talking to people and getting. We were having a conversation before we started about just talking to customers, talking to guests. I don't know. I'm a chef, so I guess the back of the house is probably.
But you like people. But you like
yeah.
people. Okay, good. Well, that makes you a front of the house person.
So I think I'm equally yoked to answer your question.
That was a good analogy. I like that.
It's taken me a couple years to get to know Michelle from coming to the restaurant because Greg and I from Greg Gatlin's.
Right.
For those who don't know, Greg Gatlin's barbecue, right? We went to the same high school. I finally got the chance to meet him a couple years ago, and then I've just been coming, right?
Yeah.
Just coming and getting familiar with the menu and things that are happening. And it's taken a while to peel back some of the onions of Michelle Wallace. Or maybe it's just to get you out of the kitchen.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But the food, I mean, if you're from the Midwest and you're making southern foods as well as you are, and my mother's from Louisiana, so I kind of have a yardstick on where, I start to judge things.
Right.
But, I mean, there's so many things that are so good from here that you have your hands attached to that I think it's appropriate that we nickname her or maybe rename you. Let me see if I can get it right. Michelle Wallace, Queen of the Midwest. Nah, that's not right.
It's not right. You're coming. We'll touch back on it.
We will, but if anybody wants to see how good you are actually in the front of the house, when I was editing the Houston Throwdown, I distinctly remember I panned up and you had to talk about what dish you were doing. I literally was just like, okay, you got 10 seconds. I'm going to do this and pan up to you. And you did so well. I was trying to figure out where to fit it in because, there's barbecue guys and they're kind of like, I did brisket and this and da-da-da. I was like, okay, where do I put Michelle? Literally the star of this whole thing. Like, you were just so awesome on camera and able to, talk about what you were cooking, and you were excited and just great on camera. I was like, oh, awesome. She doesn't need any direction or anything, but I got to figure out where to put this because it's either going to help the video or show that everybody else doesn't know what the hell they're doing in front of a camera or in front of guests. So,
that's funny.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think every dish that I think me and Greg try to present, we try to be innovative, creative, most importantly, make sure it tastes good.
Right.
And so by the time that you guys end up seeing that dish, the things that we went through and tested, and then so like by the time you ask, I'm like, man, this is what we got. It's so good. You should try it. So that's just, I don't know. I get excited about food. I get excited when things work out how it's supposed to, and don't, we've had hurdles to get through.
Sure.
But I don't know. It just excites me.
So is food then? Since you come from the Midwest, and I hate to harp on that, right?
No,
but it's a different type of cuisine.
Absolutely.
Right? So when you got here, did it come naturally to start playing with Southern foods and Southern cuisine?
I am all black, right? So our
What?
people
You
come.
are?
Yes, my people come from the South. You know,
Okay.
so it's not lost. So, you know, a lot of people have roots, although they live in Chicago or whatever north part of the country that you see. A lot of their heritage comes from the South.
Okay.
And so a lot of those, if it has transported well, you get taught.
Sure.
Like my grandmother, she was in the kitchen when growing up making tea cakes and peach cobbler and, you know, dressing and all. Like we was frying catfish and having all the same stuff down here in the Midwest at the time. So, you know, if you're paying attention as a kid, you're getting some of those lessons that, you know, you can't get, you know, in culinary school.
So it's easy then. Shell Wallace, Midwest queen of Southern cuisine.
There you go. I'll take it.
I'll take that.
I mean, look,
We're gonna trademark that right now for her.
I want my royalties.
There you go. That first cookbook, you know.
So as we're sitting here talking, I can see. Did he leave? He
Greg,
left.
he just went through the door.
All right,
Yeah.
I was going to ask him to say something, but so let's talk a little bit about. So we know your food's delicious,
Okay.
and you're at your Gatlin's barbecue,
Yes.
and, which is not just traditional barbecue. It's not central. It's not just Central Texas
No,
barbecue. There's a host of things.
Yeah.
But before we get to the food, I want to talk about the journey, right,
Mm-hmm.
after culinary school through Houston's. And who else did you work for? And how did you earn your chops? And was it easy? Was it hard?
No, it was not easy.
Good.
My approach to being in this industry, because I worked front of the house for so long, you know, I waited tables, I bartended, I did all those things that we do as college students. When I graduated, I was like, how do I, at this point, I'm already older than most. You know, a lot of these chefs are in their 20s, they're making, you know, a name for themselves. They're putting an imprint really early in their lives because that's what they knew they were going to do. I didn't have that luxury. So I kind of joined the game late. And so I wanted to figure out all aspects. So I actually went from working at Houston's. I worked under Mark Holly at a seafood place. I worked at a catering company that we did high-end catering. I'm talking about we were in these houses in River Oaks. And then where did I go after that? Oh, I think I came here.
How many years of grinding it out and different jobs was that?
That was 2000, that probably 5 years or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
After Houston's or including Houston?
Including,
Okay.
I had a long tenure at Houston's just because, matter of fact, Houston's was the very first restaurant I've ever worked in.
Okay.
But I left it and I ended up going back. The GM at the time, his name is Mark Keller. He's actually somebody who still holds an imprint in my career that I always talk about because he taught me like P&L. He taught me inventory. He
Business
taught
side.
me all of that stuff that I never thought not that I never thought I would need, but he definitely gave it to me at a time where, you know, it was so necessary. And he was one of the people who encouraged me kind of to do it. And so that's how I went back to Houston to get that information. I did some back of the house stuff as well as front of the house stuff. I think that's where I learned as well how to be so engaging on the front of the house side of it. But yeah, catering. So I did a bunch of different stuff. So I worked in seafood. I studied in China too.
Oh, really?
I forgot to mention that. This was a culinary, a study abroad trip while in culinary school. So I spent almost a month in China.
Very cool.
I love Asian cuisine. You can ask Greg. Greg always says he's part Mexican. I'm literally like part Asian. All my
Bring your food over here. Come over here.
Any dish you see that usually has an Asian undertone to it is usually me. Greg will rarely put
He's
little
looking for
something.
tacos.
Yeah,
He's looking for tacos.
he looking for He eats everything. But
Sneaking into the picture is Mr. Greg Gatlin himself. He snuck off to get a sandwich. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. So, Greg, I know you have a tight schedule, but what we want to hear from you without getting too mushy, your perspective, because I know that you and Michelle have a fantastic relationship. I've been around. You guys have relaxed enough. It's like brother and sister all the time. But what you brought her on, I think, 2016. when you came to the new location, right? You got here in 2015, about a year later.
Yeah.
If the article I read is accurate, 2016. What's been the journey with Michelle under the roof, and how's she helping
What's
you
been
guys?
the journey?
How's she helping you guys? Or maybe she's not helping, man.
Just her expertise and her energy and her knowledge and love for food. It's something that you don't find very often in a lot of people. Extremely loyal. Works harder than most guys I know. And she just does a great job. I mean, I really don't know how to put in words kind of, how, she just puts her all into it. Like,
no half-assing.
It's honestly, it's really hard to describe, because when you kind of think about it, you think about when you bring people on, they're kind of like, have whatever their own selfish ambitions are or whatever that is, and that's totally fine. I want you to be ambitious.
Personal growth and professional growth.
I want you to be that way. But along with that, she just said, "Hey, this is what we talked about. This is what we're gonna do. Let's go do it." Yeah. And there's no looking back or really second guessing or feeling like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have. And I think a lot of times when you talk to a lot of chefs or those folks that are in the kitchen, it's either their ambition is to be, I call them tweezer chefs, or you call
fancy pants.
Yeah, and so some have that aspiration. Just seeing everything that goes on television. Food is really very in your face and up front and forward now, a lot more than what it used to be. And she respects the craft. She does a great job of respecting the craft and like what are we trying to do with this particular dish? What are we doing with this protein? What are we doing with these veggies? What are we doing with this fruit? What are we trying to accomplish right here? And along with making it look good and making it make people's eyes kind of, oh wow, it tastes good. Yeah. And so when we sit down and we do things, it's people really probably don't know. They probably just like, they're doing whatever they do. It's probably separately. But when I say we go to the lab, we literally sit down and we think about hey, what do we want to put in this dish? Sure. And she'll say, hey, I think we need to do this. I was like, come back in. And then,
I get reeled in all the time. I can't.
It doesn't always feel good, but I would think that from a business perspective, it'd be like maybe next week. Right?
And sometimes, I get too far out there, and it's like, what are you thinking? And it's like, my bad. It's like they're too ambitious. Okay. She was like, yeah, we don't need to do that, And so it's good to have a respectable, opinion and working relationship to where you say like, I respect what you're saying. Right. And I know it's coming from a good place. Yeah. And whatever you're putting out there, your name is behind it, the company's brand is behind it. And so that's how we roll. Yeah.
So 2016, when you came on board, that was at this location, correct?
Correct.
And how long had this location been operating?
A year and so. Yeah.
Okay, so not only did it come with the great Gatlin kind of reputation from previous location, but it already had a year, so that it's kind of like what we talk about with either pitmasters or new chefs in the kitchen. This still has the Gatlin's name on it. How did that pressure feel like first day in the kitchen? Because by then you had been written up and there had been awards and things like that. You're kind of coming in and it's like, hey, don't it up, I've said that to people before.
I honestly did not necessarily feel that pressure. That's I really truly didn't. I had heard of Greg. I didn't understand the magnitude of what Gatlin's BBQ was prior to me working here.
That's most of us. Yeah.
And I only grew to learn that after being here. So when I started, I'm like, let's go. Like, let's do it. We randomly met, which is crazy, at a party of two mutual people that we knew. He actually knew the husband, I knew the wife. Okay. And we were at the same party. And I was just like, I remember seeing him. I was like, oh, that's that barbecue dude. Like, I'm like telling my
literally
sister.
What she said.
And so she was like, oh, let's go say hi. I was like, do you know him? And she was like, no. So she was just like, went to go say hi. I'm like, this time my sister's a little drunk. This was like a birthday party that we were both at. And so if it literally wasn't for my drunk twin sister, I probably would have just let him be and not even spoke to him that night. Only because, and I told him that all the time, it was like a Saturday, and I'm like, oh, he's outside the restaurant on a Saturday night. I'm not gonna go talk restaurant with this guy. I think Amy, your wife was there when she was, I guess, your fiance at the time or something. And I was like,
that long ago.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not gonna go interrupt their night. Like, I'm not gonna do that.
I had a tux on that night. We had gone to the Houston Restaurant Association gala.
Oh, really?
And so I made it to the party after. I told Roy and Michelle, I was like, hey, I'll try to make it. As soon as we get back. And so I was probably overdressed for the occasion, but it was cool.
Better to be overdressed.
Yeah. And so like I said, it was
That's
it was
how
neat.
It started.
It was really
He was like,
really
come
cool.
by the restaurant and like blah blah blah.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay. I just thought, how people can talk.
Sure,
like,
yeah.
call me, babe. This
That
kind of thing.
was pre big time. That was pre this location, right?
No, that was
this location. We were just getting into this location. Yeah.
And our friendship just kind of grew through conversation, and then I was telling him kind of what I wanted to do, and he's like, do you have time to come in, sit down and talk? And I'm like, okay.
That actually sounds just like
I was about to check my mic.
brother and sister relationship is
That's literally, but no, I honestly, I only didn't feel the pressure because I was ignorant, if you will.
There you go. That's okay.
sometimes it's great.
I just didn't understand the magnitude of what it was, and I didn't understand the magnitude of barbecue at that time. Like, I didn't. And so now, knowing what I know now,
you would have been more nervous.
I would have been a lot more nervous.
That's awesome.
A lot more nervous.
That's great to reflect on. So you walk in, you're having the conversation and everything. You're looking at the pits. Are you going, all right, first thing I'm grabbing is Aaron Franklin's book, or what are you trying to do?
No, I don't even know who that is at the point. At that time, I don't know anything about barbecue.
She talks about her dad. She talks about her dad.
I talked about my dad the whole time. Like, I was like, So again, I'm from the Midwest. My dad grilled at any moment. I mean, I've been in snow grilling with my dad. I've been in rain grilling with my dad. I've been like, my dad grilled. If somebody want a hot dog, great, let's fire the pit. Like 8 hot dogs, like, you know what I mean?
I like your dad already. I like that.
So, I understand that smoking and grilling are two very different things, but that was my point of reference at the time.
Wow.
And so, that's just
I
kind
know
of
how
how.
barbecue. You turn the grill on, you throw the stuff on.
Yeah. I just didn't get the magnitude of barbecuing, but I enjoy it. I love it. Like, Greg's father always said, Mrs. G, he's always like, you just jumped 2 feet in. I was like, gee, because I just wanted to know. We were talking about that earlier. Like, I'm driven by learning what I don't know. Yeah. And I didn't know any of this. And I was like, oh, this is not going to get me. I'm going to get it. Like, so that's kind of how I approach it.
Because we've talked to Wayne Mueller and Ara kind of about their journeys into barbecue and so forth. And you're talking, when I asked them, I was like, are there things that kind of cross over and things like that? And they basically said it's tomatoes and oranges or whatever. It's completely different.
Absolutely.
Not one can translate to the other, and the other one, it's very hard to make that transition.
Yeah, I mean, they are not similar, and you can't approach it that way. And I don't think I ever tried to. I don't know if you can agree with that statement.
Are you on the pits? You do you man the pits? You do it all.
Yeah, load the pits. I do everything. Look, where's I got war rooms to war wins to show.
Based on how I cook, that could be from anything.
But these are from reaching in on the racks.
I got you. So you earn those.
So
scars.
I do it all, but I wanted to. I didn't want to girly it up and be like, I've never been a dainty kind of girl. I've always been kind of, tomboy-ish to a certain degree. But I never try to make it dainty or cute. No, I want to get in there. I tell you all the time, I'm like a little boy up in here.
The other thing that separates Gatlin's as well, and I think we talked about it a little bit on our podcast, Greg, was the kitchen is actually designed as almost part pit room and part kitchen.
Yeah.
There's a line element to it. There's burners and everything. When you came on, what was mission number one that you both kind of came to an agreement with? Like, hey, I want you to take over this portion of it, or hey, we need to elevate this. What was kind of mission number one bringing Michelle on?
I think the biggest part was just getting comfortable with the atmosphere and kind of what she was dealing with. A lot of times you try to get into the process too quick. I want you to know your people, know who you're dealing with, and then, of course, we're going to get into the process. But familiarize yourself with kind of who you're dealing with day to day. Yeah. Because if you can't necessarily integrate yourself with the people, forget the process.
People step one.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we said, hey, let's get situated with whoever you got in there. This is this person. He's good at this. He's good at this. He's good at that. So she knew who she had as far as a resource. And then she was willing to take on the information. She didn't present that she knew everything, or she was like, hey, I don't know anything. Tell me what you want me to know. And so then she took that, and then she took the skills that she had as far as, culinary school, as far as just cooking, at home. And because you have to feel this stuff more so than it's just, it's this, and you got to feel that. Yeah. You got to feel that recipe. You got to feel what that dish is going to be. Right. And so she has that other piece that some people don't have. Some people can know, and so that's stuff you can't necessarily coach. And so that's what I recognize in her just from our conversations. Sure. In the beginning. And so I knew that she had that other piece. So she had the drive to go and do it. So it was just like, hey, here's the information. This is what we're going to do. And so,
So once she got past the people portion, past that test, right? Then she got past some of the intangibles. She can relate. She can figure out the system. She can navigate. What's the first item you guys collaborated on? And is it still here today?
Yeah, so one of the first things she brought up was that damn bologna sandwich.
He looked at me crazy, by the way.
I love that bologna.
He looked at me crazy, by the way.
I was like, you want to make bologna? I was like, Oscar Mayer bologna, and she's like, it's a little bit different. And I was like, let's take a look at it, whatever,
She must be a Cardinals fan or something, God damn.
And so, and there's a funny story that goes with that as far as she talks about this blood sausage that she used to. I was like, dude, blood sausage? She was like, yeah. She was like, I tried it on everybody. Nobody really likes it. They said, you want me to like the bologna just like they like the blood sausage? And so I was like, okay, just, that aside, let's see what we got. I was like, I like bologna. I was like, I like a bologna sandwich. Yeah. Like that connects with a part of you that's comfort, a part of you that's what we had, And so she said, all right. She's like, we're gonna go grind the meat. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I'm gonna go do this. And I'll let you.
I bring like all these tools from home. I'm bringing a meat grinder. I'm like excited beyond belief.
Yeah, she's like kid in the candy store. She's like, oh, it's gonna be so good. I hope it's good too.
All the time you put in.
Right. And so once we got to the final product, I was like. And I think so. I think the bologna sandwich initially may have had like lettuce or something on it, and we were like, "Nah, don't do that, and don't do this." Yeah. And so when the final thing came out, I was like, "That dog gonna hunt. Yeah, that's gonna hunt right there."
Did you want to smoke it from the beginning?
That was the vision.
Yeah.
So I had been making this. This wasn't my first time making it.
Right.
So I had been doing this. I had been doing our pastrami. I had been doing all of this stuff on already. Like that was just something that was already in my works. I don't know. I have a love affair with sausages and cured meats and stuff. So, what?
Nothing. I'm just eating my sandwich.
Don't go there. But I do have a love affair with sausage. But yeah, no. And so it wasn't my first go round, but I knew. Once I got here, I got familiar with the smokers. I always tell them, like, we can smoke anything.
Right. You literally can. You literally can. You literally can.
And so I started throwing a bunch of stuff on the smoker, and that was it. And one time, Daniel Vaughn was here when we had put it out.
Yep.
And we were, at that point, we were still just tasting. We hadn't even, like, pushed it out. And you end up, like, making one for him. And he was just like, what is this?
And did Greg take full credit for it, you know?
No, he never takes
I told him from the beginning.
No, I think I'm very lucky to work with somebody who doesn't look to take full credit all the time, you know what I mean, or at all. You know, I don't ever think, you know, he ever says, well, I don't think that's in his vocabulary when he talks about the success of Gatlin's barbecue. So.
No, because even on our podcast, I remember Greg bringing up the whole team and talking about how it's a collaborative effort, and that was really refreshing to hear. Not that the other guests haven't been doing that, but a lot of them have been self-built and things like that, and they've had to, you know, do 99% of it on their own and things like that. But those who have had the opportunity to build a team have always talked about the collaboration, and Greg was very outspoken about you and the rest of the team as well, especially since it is family or an extended family, a new family, you know, like additional families. So. Well,
man.
We're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor. It's just a quick part between 1 and 2. And we'll be right back with part 2 of the Cost of Goods Told podcast.
Michelle Wallace.
The Cost of Goods Told podcast is made possible by the following sponsors. Criswell Culinary aims to create a new standard of unique, affordable hot sauces that satisfies the more developed cravings of today. Boerne brand Texas-style hot sauce is a boldly layered sauce with density and personality to proudly represent Texas. Go to BoerneBrand.com to find a retailer near you. That's Boerne, B-O-E-R-N-E, brand.com. 0 Point Organics grows and supplies microgreens for over 30 major restaurants in the Houston area. Consistently perfect quality in flavor and appearance, their microgreens will be the best you or your customers have ever had every single time. Go to pointorganics.com.
Yeah, they are outstanding. The wings, the fried chicken. I mean, and I always tell people, I said, look, I love Gatlins, but I don't eat the barbecue.
Oh, you don't? Not anymore.
The wings, the smoked bone, the fried chicken, the fried fish, and the pastrami sandwich. And they're like, well,
that's a big deal.
I don't know about the barbecue. It's good.
That's that. You know, it was funny is that we never people. They're so hooked on barbecue that they don't even step outside of that box.
Agree.
And then when they step outside the box, they're like, oh, hell. Like, really? Like,
the latest thing is the chicken pot pies. People going crazy for. I tell Greg, I was like, they just.
She's like, you think they're going to eat chicken pot pie? I was like, yeah. It's like, just try it.
The very first time we did it, we sold out in 30 minutes.
Oh, shit.
And I was back there hand doing. It was. I think I made the very first time I made like 50 or 60 of them. Oh shit! And we sold out in 30 minutes. 30 minutes.
That's awesome.
I was like, 30 minutes. You know how long I've been back there. This could last all day. I was like, what? 30 minutes.
So
now,
is
like,
that a weekly special or just that's random? Just whenever you
been
feel like
random.
It's kind of random.
punishing yourself. Just whenever you feel like punishing yourself, then you're like, when's
Such
fried
a
chicken
fried
day?
chicken.
Is there a regular fried chicken day?
You know, we didn't do fried chicken at all this whole time. We just didn't. I was so nervous about who's actually going to show up and who's not. Yeah.
You know what I think the issue is that so when you have really good fried chicken, you're gonna have to wait for it. The perception of the barbecue joint. I just need to get my stuff and I need to go. And so if they order the chicken, then they're waiting on their barbecue or whatever that is. So you just kind of you're always trying to play the balance game
Sure.
of how long they're gonna wait and all that kind of stuff. And some people know that it takes a minute to get
Yeah.
fried chicken right, and other people are just like, you don't have it cooked already. It's not under the heat lamp,
Popeyes, you're too busy.
Yeah, and so trying to manage those people, because those people will be the people that'll start
Those
banging.
people are the most vocal people.
Yeah, it's kind of like, do we want to get into it? When do we want to do it?
Maybe never another location.
It's always
We've
it's been in
we've
conversation.
created another concept specifically for seafood and chicken, but we just haven't,
We have pulled the trigger.
we haven't put it out and pulled the trigger on it yet.
Too funny.
I know
That's
we're
so
rolling.
fun. I just
Are we
started
rolling?
recording because this was too good to pass up. So I hit record on everything. So I was like, sorry, I can always edit something out, but I wanted it so damn bad. I was like, this is so good. This is great.
No more moves for Connor. We're off the railroad.
That's right. Don't let the guy who's driving the bus,
Crazy.
have another sip.
You stay as long as you want,
Okay.
but I know you got a schedule.
Let's get out.
Well, good.
What's your schedule, Michelle? You guys get.
Nowhere to be.
Yeah, and at 5 o'clock in the morning. She don't have to be nowhere till 5 o'clock in the morning. That is right.
Wake up from yep. I'm usually here by like 4:30, 4:45. I'm always early.
Making fried chicken.
I'll do that one morning just for you, and I'm gonna text you.
You let me know.
I want to be on that group.
Go ahead and go. Let's go. I'm gonna go get some birds. We'll put them in the brine.
So you can stick around. He's
I'll
gonna go
stay
get
all
birds.
night.
No.
So my boy can have his fried chicken.
If you do it more often, it wouldn't be a
Give me
problem.
It'd be a problem, huh?
We're gonna fry some chicken one of these days.
Well,
I
good.
feel like fried chicken and brisket have something in them because once you have it, like 2 days later, you're craving it. Like
Yeah.
good brisket, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like I couldn't eat barbecue again. The next
Yeah.
morning, I'm kind of like,
I need some more.
I need a little bit of brisket. I just chop it up, throw it in some eggs, and then
Yeah.
2 days later, I'm like, I gotta get barbecue
I
again.
need
You know?
How do you do with eating so much barbecue and stuff here and there?
Just stay fat. That's all I do.
I don't eat it enough.
You guys have so many items that I can connect with.
Nice.
It never gets old.
Nice.
Like I didn't know until we did the photo shoot, right?
Yeah.
Fried fish. All
Yeah,
the things.
you were
And then
like-
you just elevated the chicken to another level when you brought out that hot honey. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh. I'm gonna go hold down when I did the It's just so, there's so many.
It's so terrible.
There's just so many things that you guys offer that go back to the comfort food.
Good.
The chicken pot pie was another thing. We see the frozen Swanson chicken pot
Yeah,
pie.
yeah.
So just saying that takes me back to a time when, hey man, my parents are at work.
Yep.
And we're alone
Man,
also.
it
It
was
bologna
after school.
sandwiches,
That
it
was after school.
It was
Chicken
pizza
pot pie.
rolls.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
pizzas, chicken a la king.
Yep.
Chicken pot pie. I mean, those things bring back great memories.
Absolutely.
I really do think that's how a lot of Greg talk about this all the time. People don't get me wrong, people like to go and they like to try these new places and they eat bone marrow here and foie gras there, but ultimately they want something that they can connect with,
Of
that
course.
reminds them of something
Absolutely.
that's super satisfying. And I don't think you can get it with whatever it is, but I think you get it more with that type of food.
I agree 100%. There's there's different types of cuisine, different levels of cuisine. There's some things I don't relate to. I don't relate to bone marrow. That's just not how we grew up.
Right.
But man, you talk about putting a roux together. Immediately flashbacks to the kitchen window being open to the street in the neighborhood, and nobody needs to call me to come home because I know what's about to go down.
Right.
And it's time to go.
So we passed the root test on our gumbo with you.
You did.
Yes,
You
good,
did. You absolutely
good.
did. I'm not a seafood guy, but
Yeah.
I ate every bit of it.
Good.
I gave it to my wife. I'm like, she'll pick the crab.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm cool.
Yeah.
But fried pork chops. My mom's heating up that bacon grease with a little extra new grease to thin it out. Man, I can
What I
see
tell you about that cast iron? What did I tell you?
And so I think you're absolutely right. People look for a way to connect. Sometimes, people that are around food enough eat with their eyes as well. So
Yeah.
it's not just about let me just taste something.
Right.
They see it, they're attracted to it. It brings back some emotion of connection.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I am. So how do I do it?
Yeah.
I eat the food I like to eat that
Yeah.
brings back, good memories.
But you have a new generation of diners that are possibly growing up on not home cooked food, and then
sure.
Very much
also
so.
who are
Very much
eating
so.
alternative versions of food, whether that be plant-based diets or very eclectic diets, things like that. And you almost have to appeal to that as well, and that's a very tough balance to do.
It's a genre. It's a tough genre to be in. I don't know how do you, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're classically trained, right? And you come from not a restaurant background, but you're obviously very successful, right? And you found the area where you like to be with some elevated foods, with some crafted foods. How do you feel about like plant-based proteins, and do you see that finding a place on your menu, or do you say, hey, look, we got all the vegetables you want, right? And by the way, we got meat too. You can
Yeah.
mention that. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I mean, I think I don't know what the future of that type of food is. That Beyond Meat and all that
Impossible
burgers
yeah.
and all that other stuff. I think it's very popular right now. To me, it speaks as if it could be something that is a trend. I think that's going to be based on how people continue to eat over time, whether or not, veganism is going to be still hot and popular. It has a level of trendiness to me.
Yeah.
And so, although I think it may survive, I don't know if it'll survive at the rate that it's going.
Do you have clientele coming in, inquiring, asking for, requesting an impossible burger? Right? Have you seen a dip in your business?
They may not ask for it specifically. They may ask, hey, do you have anything gluten free or something like that?
Right.
But I think our goal is to, we're not going to be everything to everybody.
Sure.
We're going to stay in our lane. We're going to do what we do. We're going to be able to. We have the ability to explore. And, to bring, say you don't like bone marrow. Hey, what do we do with the bone marrow to make him like that bone marrow?
Oh, I can make.
How do we?
I can make you connect to it.
Yeah, and it's like,
Make
so
you connect to it.
yeah, and so how do we get the millennial group that's dealing with the eye appeal? How do we get them to deal with the elevated dish and really go back to, hey man, you don't even know what your grandmother used to cook.
Right.
Just eat that right there.
Right, yeah.
And then so if you have the ability to be able to mix those two things, but not elevate to a point to where it's not recognizable,
Sure.
I think you have something that's special there. And then if you're able to connect with them just as people, doesn't matter if they're 55, it doesn't matter if they're 65, it doesn't matter if they're 25, because I think everybody that works here at Gatlin's has an ability to connect with somebody. Miss Mary is somebody's grandma.
Yeah.
That comes in.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm somebody's, older brother or something that comes in. Michelle's somebody's older sister, and so, or that's my grandmother right there. Hey, sweetie, how you doing? Come give me some sugar. She don't even know her.
Yeah,
You don't even know her. They don't even
She'll
know
be like,
her.
"They're my baby," and it's like her first time.
Like what? And so it's crazy. Yeah.
Never
And
met
so,
a stranger.
that integrating that with food is, to me, is the kind of recipe
Yeah.
that I think you have to kind of look at. And then the minute you lose the personal touch with somebody, I don't think your success rate long term
Sure.
isn't necessarily going to be there.
People definitely dine out for an experience, and I think a lot of times the experience includes the aesthetic of the building, the music that's playing, the food that looks good on the plate, and sometimes they don't have the level of being personal with you as a part of the experience.
Yeah.
And so I think we try to do that extremely well, and so I think that's one of the reasons why, what sets us apart from it.
Do you feel, and this isn't supposed to be a political question or anything, nor is it supposed to be a trigger question. I had to preface it because
means it will be.
Well, for someone, but this is honest. This is an honest question. Is that in the world of barbecue, it is, and in the chef world as well. I mean, you look at the James Beard nominations. You look at those who are getting written up and acclaimed in the culinary world. It is not widely African American. Do you find with your barbecue that you are introducing people to a culture that they may not be familiar with at times, introducing them to a cuisine that they may not be familiar with because the barbecue is the draw, and then they say, oh, I'm going to try a different side than what I could get at, quote unquote, a traditional barbecue restaurant? And if that's not an appropriate question, please let me know, because this is a learning experience for me too.
Yeah. I think absolutely. There are a lot of people who hear about Gatlin's barbecue, and when I'm out, the first thing they'll say is, "Oh, I heard about the brisket. It's really good, and the ribs are really awesome." And then they come in and they got collard greens and yams on their plate, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what is this?" So absolutely, I think that it's fair to say that there are people who don't have a connection with Southern cuisine, and some of the dishes that we do extremely well that are Southern and based in our history of cooking and kind of growing up being black and learning from our grandmothers and all that stuff. I think absolutely.
Because I think it's a great quote unquote gateway food, to kind of introduce that side of things and get them to open up and also interact, as silly as that sounds, I think borders and walls need to be broken down between cultures and ethnicities or whatnot.
I think as long as people come in open, they'll be able to get what they're open to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If somebody's closed off and all they want is their brisket and their ribs, get some damn good brisket and ribs,
Right.
and they'll go about their business. We can, and they'll have a good time here for that moment, and they go about their business. But if they want to tap into something more, that's here as well. So
There's a lot more.
what about yourself kind of coming up now in the barbecue world? You've obviously been very much closely associated with Gatlin's and the success of Gatlin's and the new things on the menu, but also, hey, the barbecue hasn't suffered. You're going out to the throwdowns and barbecue events and things like that.
Yeah.
How is it as one, a woman, and then two, an African-American woman?
As a black woman in this thing, it's really it's weird. There's no one else. I've not come into, outside of a couple of other owners. I think over at Southern Q, I've met his wife. But I've not met another woman who has my angle. She's not a chef. She's in it. Her husband started this, so she works in it because she's his wife. Most of these women are wives of the husband who do what they do, and I've not really met anybody else who was kind of like me in the barbecue world. But it's good. I mean, I don't think I have. I sometimes feel like we put out food, we put out amazing food, we put out amazing dishes, and we do things so creative. Sometimes it feels as if it's not fully noticed. Sometimes it feels like we do. Sometimes people take notice to some of our creativity, and they comment on it. So it's a weird position to be in. I don't know.
Yeah, because I think the kitchen is one of those places where it's like every kitchen that I've worked in, no one gave a shit about sexual orientation, color of the skin, or whatnot. Get your job done, and if you can't do the job, I'm going to rip you a new one, just
Basically,
like I rip everybody else. But if you can do your job and you can highlight your station, well, keep doing it. And I'm going to promote you as much as possible. And
a little bit like what Greg touched on earlier about getting to know the people. Everybody was guys at that point. And I think a lot of that, like, oh my God, here's this chick in the kitchen. What does she know about barbecue and cooking food and stuff? So you almost have to prove yourself that, I can get it done.
Almost.
But that's just as women in a kitchen. That's just women in a kitchen, in any kitchen, in every kitchen that I've ever cooked in, or I've run or I've managed. That's just you have to prove yourself that you can get it done. I think it's everybody, but I think it's more so women. You know what I mean?
Because I think Erin Fegis has talked about that in her experiences at Per Se and some of those great restaurants in New York. We had Jennifer from 4J Brewery kind of talking about the brewery experience too. Business owner, brewer, working just as hard as, chefs do, to put out a great product. And, it's kind of a guys club type of thing in those worlds. So, I thank you for being so open and honest with us. I appreciate that.
This is one of the reasons why I take it extremely serious, because I never want to be looked at as someone who's just playing around, or she just thinks it's cute, or I want to be able to prove myself just like everybody else. And I do. There are a lot of times where I do feel like we have to work doubly hard, and then as a black woman, you got to work even harder. Am I knowledgeable? Am I capable? Am I all these things that they look for, and can you get it done? That's it.
I think you're getting
Attack
it
it.
done. I mean, when we research for the show, right? You can read countless articles, and I read 6 or 7 today from periodicals locally and then around Texas as well. And there's always a mention of how Gatlin's has grown over the years. And you've been here since 2016. Your name is mentioned in every single article. So the fact that you say, hey, can I do these things? Can I present well? You're doing them.
Yeah.
And so you deserve that credit. You deserve the fact that you're being recognized. And I think in due time, Erin Feegis, right? Erin Smith Feegis,
Absolutely.
she does a great job.
Yeah.
And she's part of a husband and wife team that runs successful businesses. Evelyn Garcia, right? Chef. She does a great job, and she's getting her time.
Yeah.
Everyone will get their time at some point, and you're not questioning that. But what I'm saying is I see you moving closer to that spotlight, and we would be extremely happy for you for that. So.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of moving to the spotlight, I know COVID's kind of done a number on all plans and things like that. You touched upon it a little bit, but what do you see for the future of Gatlin's, even with COVID kind of going on, and then beyond that, for yourself as well?
We have this conversation all the time now. What's next for us? But I tell Greg all the time, it's the restaurant industry is definitely looking different, as everybody knows. And it's how do I get my product in the hands of consumers so that, one, it still tastes amazing, it still looks amazing, without compromising what it is that you do. I think there are going to people, we were talking about this earlier, people are going to be, as I talk with customers that come in here, some of them, they don't mind going out. Hey, it's everything's normal, I'm gonna dine out. Some people are wanting to go, so making sure that those things are packaged to go, they travel well, they make it to their plates at home great. And then some people are leery, they're like, oh, well maybe, I can just take this with me and maybe I can cook it at home, or I can reheat at home. We talked about packaging barbecue to go. So I think the future is going to be a combination of it all. I think the consumer is going to be like, okay, if I feel like dining, I want to make sure that dining experience is great. If I want to take it home, I want to make sure that's also is great. If I want to do it myself, where can I get some product to make sure that, I can do this at home myself, but still something good and satisfactory that ain't hamburger healthy.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not necessarily changing the menu to be something for everybody. It's adjusting operational procedures to be the option for everybody, whether they want to take it in or they want to, take it to go. You were kind of talking off mic about, hey, if they call and they say, can you put it in the trunk of my car? Hey, just tell me what car, your car, your make, model, and color, we'll bring it out.
Yeah, I was mentioning earlier, I was like, we never really put anything out publicly about, is our dining room back open? It's not. I felt like our approach was just like, we want to service whoever's in front of us, whoever's making an order, what are they comfortable with? If they're comfortable with coming in, placing their order and waiting, we want to make sure that that's safe and they feel comfortable in doing that. If they want us to bring it out to their car, that's what they feel, great, let us know. Where are you? Okay, great, got it in. We'll see you next time. So we want to adjust to each person that comes in because we want them to be comfortable. It's just like, we talked about earlier, it's like coming into our home, you want that customer or your company to feel comfortable, and that's literally how we want everybody who walks through that door to feel when they come in and place orders. So.
Yeah. So we've talked about where you come from, a little bit of background, some of the journey through the culinary experience, where you've worked. For young girls, young women in the hospitality industry, what do you want them to know about your legacy? What do you want them to know about
good question.
Michelle Wallace? Because, let me.
She's mean as hell.
Greg tell me I'm mean all the time.
She's mean.
Hey, you have to be mean to work.
She's just mean to me. She's just mean to me. That's all.
All men are assholes, so you got to be mean with us. But you have risen to, in my own opinion, you have risen to a level that is respectful, that has earned the right to speak your mind, to be creative, to pass along several dishes. What do you want young women to know about the hospitality industry in general?
Yeah.
And how they can be successful?
That's a good question. But I would just tell, you have to take it all in one. And what I mean by that is you have to be open to learn And then you have to be confident in yourself. Once in making decisions, this whole thing is just about making decisions a lot of the times. And so you have to be able to make them quickly.
Some on the fly, right? And some planned
make them smartly while being quick, and still try to have some kind of fun while doing it. The hospitality industry is completely about relationships with customers, relationships with your counterparts, relationship with the people that you're managing. It's literally about relationships. And if you can get a team of people to, one, respect you, respect what you're doing, I think then that in turns garner a whole team of just hardworking people. I respect them, they respect me. Now we're working together for the greater good. So I want young women it's hard work. It's really not. People think that coming into a restaurant, people are just waiting tables or they're just cooking. It is truly hard work, and it's you have to be able and willing to sacrifice time, your body, you know, to this craft. Yeah. I mean, it's just tough. Yeah. And so you got to be able to and willing to get down and dirty with it. And if that's not something you're interested in, you can't half-ass it and expect to be great.
So it's safe to say, develop thick skin.
Absolutely.
Take things with a grain of salt.
Absolutely.
Look for the
failure is it's going to happen.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, I mean, in any aspect of growing as a person, you know, you have to fail once, twice, 3 times. You got to get it wrong sometimes so you can get it right.
You said it earlier, and it was about being uncomfortable. Like, growth comes from being uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And when I was on the sales side, managing lots of salespeople, I always told them, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Because in that moment, you can then make decisions that are best for long term.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't just shut down.
Right.
So, I mean, I try to teach the young guys that just be comfortable being uncomfortable, and then have thick skin. And you're going to fail. You're not a millionaire. Nobody's a millionaire overnight.
No.
Nope.
Yeah.
So the real story is, you work hard, you put your time in, you pursue one education. It might not be for you, so you go another route, but you never gave up. You never quit. You just kept spinning.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. It's a journey, man.
It's
And
a journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
It's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. I'm certainly grateful to be where I am right now. And I tell people all the time, like, I never feel like, you talking about, man, you are really, I never feel like I made it. You know, I always feel like there's something more. Like, I'm not there yet. Like, I'm not there yet. So that's like, as I sit here today, I'm always like, I ain't there yet. Like, I'm not there yet. There's more. There has to be more. There's something more to do, to learn, you know, to grow from. So I need to learn how to relax and enjoy where I am at times. I get that a lot of the time. But usually do.
Now I'm going to change my thing I said earlier. Michelle Wallace, Midwest Queen, Southern cuisine, via Gatlin's
No, I'm really grateful to Greg, because he's never. Matter of fact, at the same time I came to work here, I had another job offer, and I chose to come here, only because through our conversations and just getting to know him, but. The growth of being creative and dealing with food was definitely a lot greater here. And so I was like, okay. And then he's never, you know, stalled that. So I'm always grateful for that.
Well, this has been an incredible podcast.
Yeah.
Much like our podcast, Greg. I think we talked about the barbecue for about 5% of it, but we get more comments on the life stories that you shared. Michelle, I think it's going to be very much the same thing, because you've been very open and honest with everything and talking about the journey more so than, hey, this is the type of wood we use, or, you know, this is how the barbecue kind of goes. And that is wildly valuable, and I think is something very special about the guests that we have on our podcast. And we could not be more blessed to have both of y'all sitting here and talking about that. This was an absolutely incredible episode.
Come to speak of it, we have great guest selection.
Give it up.
Right. Touche, right.
Darren's trying to upgrade that co-producer, you know,
Michelle's hair looks
You like that, right?
It is not under a hat. Can you believe?
I never see you without your hat. Beautiful.
That's great.
I told Greg, I was like, I'm going home to Dubai. He was like, why?
I really did. I was like, really?
I was like, I'm going to show my hair today. I'm not going to be under a hat.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on.
Thank
you so much.
I appreciate you guys having me. I really,
course.
really do appreciate
for
that.
the insight and letting your walls down, letting us get to know Michelle Wallace a little bit.
Thank
Greg,
you.
thank you for the
Man.
for joining us.
So long for the ride, brother. So long
Thank
for
you
the
for
ride.
photobombing my.
That's what I do.
You're a smart man.
At least he's not going on the podcast. It's really good because I'm here now.
That's good planning purpose.
Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, thank you for bringing
Loosen
that
you up every
there.
time. Loosen you up every time.
Grease the wheels on this podcast.
Yes.
Michelle, if people want to follow you and your journey, where can they find information about yourself?
I am on Instagram at Between the Slices, on Twitter as well as Between the Slices, and then Facebook just as Michelle Wallace. So follow. You'll find a lot of stuff from Gatlin's Barbecue, but a whole lot more. Between the Slices came just because I actually was going to open a sandwich food truck when I met Greg, and so that was kind of part of the whole Between the Slices sandwiches kind of correlation. So
That's
it
not
just
dead,
kinda
by the
stuck.
way. That's not dead. That's
So,
not dead.
and which in turn is why you have that bologna sandwich and stuff. So those are all. You'll see some good photos of some cool sandwiches on there. But yeah, that's it.
Very cool. And if people want to know what you're cooking up here at Greg's, at Gatlin's. At Greg's
You
place.
trying to get me killed, man? My mama watching this.
Our apologies to the whole
Thank you.
I just shut it down. Hope it didn't kill Connor, man.
Mama Connor don't know what he's talking about. Right?
Connor 19 destroyed this restaurant. Good God. Oh, no.
No
Christmas
more
will be interesting, Connor. Thank you.
We just keep it simple.
Great.
We out.
I'm an exit stage left. I'm ready to go.
Let me call her right now. Oh, he didn't know what he was saying.
Oh,
He didn't. He didn't.
Thank God for the power of editing. If someone wants that bologna sandwich, so that's right.
Gatlin's Barbecue.
That's classic.
So, Greg, if they're looking for you, where are they going to find you?
3510 Ella Boulevard.
Yeah.
I'm here either in the morning or in the evening.
How about social media?
Do we have social media? No, I'm kidding.
You run it. You run it.
Instagram, Gatlin's Barbecue. That's BARBECUE. Twitter, Gatlin's BBQ. And Facebook at Gatlin's Barbecue and Catering.
Y'all are currently doing dine-in, pickup, delivery through third party or just
No.
through? Okay.
Just large orders.
Large orders, yeah.
Okay, so catering kind of
Yeah.
type of deals. Okay,
Yep.
wonderful. Well, perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Give us a call, 713-869-4227.
She says
Keep
it
us
in between.
busy.
Vanna White, y'all. Vanna White. Vanna White.
If not now, more than ever, support local, support great,
Absolutely.
great businesses like this one here. Again, cannot thank y'all enough for sharing your dining room for us to record here and sharing your stories. This has been absolutely awesome, and it's been really cool since it's been 2 seasons. Because I can't remember what number, but you were an early episode, Greg.
Yeah.
When we did
Congratulations on that. Your podcasts are great, so I usually
Yeah.
try to catch them when you post them. So they're really awesome.
You'll listen to this one. That's what.
Yeah. my mother will be listening, so she's like,
Right.
when is it again? I'll send it to you.
Oh, Shell, that was so nice.
Everybody say hi, Mom.
I'm a fan.
Well, awesome. Well, for all our listeners, like and subscribe. 5 stars, 5 stars. We're out.